From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I am Saini Gray. After 18 hours of debate and discord with rubber bullets and tear gas filling the air outside, Argentina's lower house has approved the budget for 2019. The proposed budget was passed with 138 votes in favor and 103 against. Tens of thousands had protested outside Congress against the budget. They said it involves huge cuts and was imposed by the International Monetary Fund. The bill will now go to the Senate for debate and for a vote scheduled for next month.
138 have been affirmative, 103 were negative, and there were 8 abstentions.
The protesters were met with a fierce response from the police. At least 31 demonstrators were arrested, although some have now been released. Telesur's own journalists were caught up in the violence, and a camera person was struck by a rubber bullet.
Amid what has been called a brutal suppression and in spite of strong opposition from various groups, the officialism achieved quorum to be in the budget adjustment issued by the IMF.
If this budget is implemented, what will prevail is poverty, exclusion, social inequality, closing of hospitals. That is why we tell the politicians, you weren't elected to surrender. You have to rise up, because the working people are on the streets demanding an end to repression. We are asking for this budget adjustment to be struck down.
Just like the darkest time in Argentina, the police force beat up citizens who were peacefully demonstrating. They tried to infiltrate political and social movements and hold them accountable for the rioting.
The police and intelligence services are trying to deny the people their right to protest in front of the Congress. It doesn't matter who's presiding over this session today.
Analysts warn that with the budgetary allocation to pay the interest of foreign debt, Macri's dominance over the most vulnerable will only get worse next year.
The main thing is that they are approving a budget that goes against Argentine people. It is a 400 billion cut that will negatively affect healthcare, education, workers' salary, public works, and all this will result in more unemployment.
Amid massive layoffs and extreme rate hikes, this budget cut proposed by the Macri's government will only serve to deepen discontent among Argentinians.
There is an exponential growth in the payment of foreign debt interests. There is also concern about the peso devaluation and the flight of capital. This is why it is important to protest, because even if the National Congress manages to approve the proposed fiscal measures, it will be a political defeat because the majority of the country is opposed to that budget.
Despite the bullets and the tear gas, Argentinians will continue to take action on the outskirts of the Congress, because they know that if the budget becomes law, the impact on society will be devastating.
Demonstrators in Chile were also suppressed as they demanded that the government eliminate the pension system inherited from the military dictatorship.
Students, teachers and unions are strongly against private companies managing workers' retirement savings. 1 year ago, more than 1 million people took to the streets to demand a retirement plan that takes into account the needs of the people.
We, the students, are fighting along with workers, our teachers, and all of those who help us. We know they are also going through difficult times. We see it in our schools. So the support and cohesion are key in this struggle for change.
We're trying to generate massive support as in the past. People tend to give some leeway to a government early in its tenure. But people also trust that a government is going to fulfill its promises.
However, over the past 7 months, the government has failed to answer the people's concerns. On contrary, it has now turned around and decided to force a law down the throats of its most vulnerable citizens, retirees.
This government does not legislate for citizens, but for banks and markets. That is the big problem. We are regular workers who generate wealth. We are not lazy people. Investment funds and social parasites are the bad guys.
These private companies, known as pension fund administrators, which invest in market stocks, have taken the money of Chilean people. In the end, it's big business that stands to benefit, not the pensioners.
We need a fair pension system for our elderly. Old people will not have added misery, but we also need a system for us and our sons and daughters.
This pension system was put in place in 1981 by the dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet. The plan is the brainchild of José Piñera.
A fraudulent study says we have one of the 8 best retirement plans in the world, but that's a lie. You can see it's a lie when old people have to work beyond 60, 70, 80 years old.
We have an alternative proposal, a shared system with a 3-way contribution. That is a solidarity system.
Luis Messina was one of the protest leaders who was arrested by police. Government has not made any statement regarding the detention of about a dozen demonstrators.
A trial date has been set for a former Barbados government minister accused of money laundering. Former head of Commerce, Donville Innes, is now scheduled to appear before a U.S. federal court on June 24th next year. The prosecution alleges that Innes used his position to accept bribes to help an insurance company secure 2 Barbadian government contracts. He could face up to 20 years in jail. And in Brazil, as the campaign comes to an end, presidential candidate Fernando Haddad is expressing confidence ahead of Sunday's polls. Thousands of supporters rallied for the Workers' Party candidate in Sao Paulo, chanting, "Haddad, yes." Haddad sent a message to his political rival. He says, in the end, the people will have the final say, so he's not fazed by the latest polls showing that Bolsonaro could clinch victory.
He will discover that today it is probable, but tomorrow it will only be possible. He will discover on Saturday that things have heated up, trouble is brewing, and on Sunday he will discover that he lost.
If Bolsonaro wins, I have a lot more to lose. All of us, all us women, everyone, all minorities will lose if Bolsonaro wins. I am here for democracy.
And Brazil's former president, Lula da Silva, is demanding an end to fascism. He made the impassioned plea in a letter he sent from prison, in which he also praises the presidential hopeful, Fernando Haddad. Lula says Haddad symbolizes the survival of democracy in Brazil. The former president is serving a 12-year prison term. Jair Bolsonaro and Fernando Haddad, they are 2 very different candidates with equally divergent proposals for the education sector. So, what are Haddad and Bolsonaro's policies? Here's our special series, Bolsonaro or Haddad, 2 opposing visions for Brazil.
Fiscal adjustment is part and parcel of Brazil's current economic situation. The Senate approved an austerity package to freeze social spending for 20 years. Jair Bolsonaro, a sitting member of parliament, approved that measure, while his political rival, Fernando Haddad, strongly opposed it. Bolsonaro, the far-right presidential candidate, has said that education is a major focus. He says there's a need to expand the curriculum so that more maths, science and Portuguese are taught in schools. On the issue of the economy, the Workers' Party candidate Haddad has vowed to do away with the constitutional amendment which enabled the freezing of public spending for 2 decades. Thousands of voters remember the days when Haddad was education minister. Back then, he opened over 400 technical schools and 18 universities. Now he's promising to strengthen primary level education and improve tertiary level programs.
For my students, who are black students from the poorest sector, they had the opportunity of good public education program, but this opportunity is now at risk. They know that voting for Haddad means voting for the continuity of this education trust, which I believe will help hundreds of people.
Meanwhile, Bolsonaro has failed to present any proposals to improve basic education. He's also said he supports the privatization of public universities and the introduction of distance learning programs. These are measures which the population is divided on.
Who guarantees that those who go to class are really studying? Who guarantees that students get food in their schools? Everything is a mystery. My cousin studied under a distant learning program, and now he's a professor.
Teachers replace the parents when they are not at home. In my time, it was like that. I think that it is fundamental that children are in the schools and not learning through a virtual platform.
Out of 50 million students in basic education in Brazil, 80% are in public schools. Experts say they will be the most affected by Bolsonaro's proposals.
The proposals of reducing public funds for education are wrong. Bolsonaro represents a serious threat to the right of our children to have a bright future. His program actually says that the state is not responsible to guarantee basic education for lower-income children.
This Sunday, when 147 million voters choose their next president, their decision will have an impact well beyond the 4 years of the presidential term. It will affect the future of a whole generation, schooled on the basis of the educational proposals of one of these candidates.
We'll take a short break now. More Latin American news after the break.
Our actions have an impact on the environment. It's our responsibility to change for the sake of our planet. Let's be part of this transition. Watch, preserve, and protect your Green Zone. Wednesdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. The migrant caravan continues on its long trek towards Mexico's northern border. On Wednesday, the main body of the caravan set off towards Mazatepec in the state of Chiapas.
To avoid the extreme heat, migrants in the caravan resumed their journey early in the morning. At about 3:30 in the afternoon, the group filled up one lane of the Pan-American highway that will take them from village to village until the town of Arriaga. Some of them are already tried to reach the border with the United States before.
It's been a long time since I have been in El Salvador. I was deported from the United States and I decided to migrate again with all these people in the caravan.
People get more tired as the days pass by. They haven't slept and they eat whatever people give them in solidarity.
I give them tacos or whatever I have at home. It is food from my shop. It is the only thing I have to help them out.
People in the caravan face a lot of risks, but they keep moving forward.
It was very hard to pass through Guatemala because I almost got raped. A guy who passed by protected my friend and I with a knife. My friend went back to Honduras because she was really scared.
The Mexican Secretariat of Domestic Affairs says 110 Honduran citizens resigned to their asylum application and have asked to be taken to their home country.
Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has called U.S. Vice President Mike Pence a crazy extremist for his migrant caravan accusation. Maduro dismissed Pence's claim that the group was financed by Venezuela. He fired back at Pence during a meeting broadcast on state television.
El hombre dijo, llegó a decir,
The man said that the caravan was being financed by Venezuela, by President Nicolás Maduro, and that they intend to put the United States' defense and security to the test. I don't know why. I have a tremendous power to summon. Right. In Central America. Mike Pence? If it weren't an extremist saying it, a crazy extremist like Mike Pence, and the danger that this means for my own personal security, who has already been the subject of an open public attack on the security of the country, one would only laugh at this. The first thing it provokes is laughter, and the second is worry, because of the imperialist paranoia has begun by accusing President Maduro and Venezuela of whatever occurs to them.
And Cuba's Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez has also responded to the accusation by the U.S. that Cuba is organizing and financing the migrant caravan.
Yesterday's accusation in a tweet of the U.S. mission to the United Nations that Cuba organizes and finances the caravan of migrants that is moving through Central America looking for a better future is laughable.
At the press conference, the Cuban foreign minister also criticized the U.S. for planning to extend the blockade on his island. Rodriguez said the U.S. permanent mission in the UN has launched a series of amendments to the resolution that condemns the blockade. The vote is expected on October 31st.
The repeated statements of the United States against Cuba have a goal, and that is to increase tensions between the two countries. The United States wants to defend, with the help of any tools, generally illegal and immoral ones, its behavior over the sanctions against Cuba.
Peru's opposition leader Keiko Fujimori has attended a court hearing over a prosecutor's demand to put her in preventative detention for 36 months. Peru's prosecutor, Jose Domingo Perez, has accused the Popular Force Party leader of money laundering. He said Keiko created a corruption network to receive millions of dollars from her party from the Brazilian construction giant Odebrecht. Last week, she was released after spending a week in prison. The court will resume again on Thursday. Ecuador's defense minister is hailing the success of the U.S. Navy's hospital ship that arrived recently to Esmeraldas. But some patients complained that they weren't able to access the medical care they so desperately needed.
This is Carmen. She's one of many residents desperately in need of medical assistance. Carmen suffers with painful varicose veins in her legs and was told she urgently requires surgery. Sadly, her medical insurance does not cover this type of treatment at public hospitals. So when she heard about the ship's arrival, she wasted little time in seeking help. However, she was met with disappointment.
This is a joke. We have been here since 7 o'clock yesterday and we have been told that there is only dental medicine. It is not right that they have deceived us like this, in this town where some of us are literally at death's door.
Several citizens told a similar story. Some were upset about having to endure an hour-long wait for medical attention, with the scorching heat of the sun bearing down on them. They say they feel as though they were being insulted by the defense ministry at the United States Embassy.
They lied to us. After 2 weeks of $1 million promotions promising that this hospital ship was going to be the long-awaited help we need. However, it has failed to deliver. Only the relatives of the authorities and persons close to them seem to be getting attention.
They said they were bringing specialists from the United States. We believed that they would have been able to provide us with good medication. However, look how they have treated us. This is a mockery.
The visit of the U.S. comfort ship is part of an international cooperation agreement between the United States and Ecuador. The vessel's medical team says it is expected to attend to over 700 patients a day and carry out about 20 surgeries on board. Ecuador's defense minister attempted to address the people's concern.
The international cooperation with the United States is of great importance. We assured that the medical team would see patients over the next few days, all those that need urgent medical attention, so Colm can return to Esmeraldas.
Despite the government's claims of success, some citizens say Esmeralda continues to be one of the most neglected provinces in the country. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
In a dramatic rescue, a man has been saved from the Arroyo de Santiago River in the Mexican state of Colima. He got caught up in a strong current and was being carried downstream, but thanks to the onlookers who came to assist, he's reported to be in good health. Heavy rainfall caused by Hurricane Willa caused water levels to rise and led to the overflow of rivers. World News is next. Stay with us.
An occasion to enjoy the cultural diversity that defines our South American essence. Come along to find out the story behind these personalities, traditions, and artistic expressions that unite us as a whole. Real Lives, Friday, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. U.S. stock markets are on the recovery path a day after one of the worst falls since 2011. The impact was seen across the world. Asian markets are still down, while European markets have bounced back. Growing concerns over the global economy, rising borrowing costs, and trade tensions were blamed for Wednesday's plunge. Super Typhoon U2 has devastated the U.S. territories of Northern Mariana Islands and Guam. Homes were flattened when heavy rains and gale-force winds battered the islands. Within 24 hours, the storm had strengthened into the equivalent of a Category 5 hurricane. U2 is now tracking towards the Philippines and Taiwan. The Ethiopian parliament has elected the country's first female president. Before becoming president, Sale Work worked as the UN representative at the African Union. She also served as an ambassador in Senegal and Djibouti. Her election comes just a week after the Prime Minister filled half of his cabinet with women as part of his transformative agenda. The Saudi Arabia Prince Mohammed bin Salman has vowed to bring the murderers of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi to justice. This is the prince's first public appearance since Khashoggi's murder was confirmed via Saudi state TV. The official word from the kingdom on the sequence of events leading to Khashoggi's disappearance has changed numerous times. In the meantime, the head of the CIA, Gina Haspel, reportedly heard the audio tapes of Khashoggi's murder during her trip to Turkey. And now let's take a look at some of the other stories making headlines around the world.
Facebook has been fined $645,000 by the United Kingdom. The UK's Information Commissioner's Office fined the social media company over its involvement in the Cambridge Analytica data scandal. Facebook shared some of the 87 million people's data with Cambridge Analytica it took without permission. The firm used the data for targeted political advertising in the US. South Korean authorities have exhumed the remains of 2 soldiers in the demilitarized zone shared with North Korea as part of the demining operation. Officials estimate the remains of more than 10,000 soldiers are in the DMZ area, including South Korean and UN soldiers. They were killed during the Korean War between 1950 and 53. The war hasn't officially ended as no peace treaty was signed.
It is of great significance that we have discovered the first remains of a putative South Korean soldier at this point. In the process of preparation for the North and South Joint Recovery Operation as a result of the military agreement. Also, it is assumed that there are more than 10,000 remains in the DMZ area, including the UN forces as well as South Korean soldiers.
The European Parliament has awarded the Sakharov Human Prize to Ukrainian filmmaker Oleg Sentsov, who is currently jailed in Russia over an alleged arson plot in Crimea. The 42-year-old filmmaker received $58,000 prize for an exceptional contribution to human rights around the world. The other runner-ups for the award included 11 charities saving migrants in the Mediterranean and American activists.
The Spanish capital, Madrid, has banned the use of electronic scooters on sidewalks in a bid to improve pedestrian safety. Some scooters can reach speeds of 60 kilometers per hour. Electric scooters will now have to be used on the street at half of that speed rate. And we end with news that Trinidad and Tobago's Dwayne Bravo has announced his retirement from international cricket. Bravo, who's one of the world's top all-rounders, made his debut for the West Indies 14 years ago. He says he feels that at this point, he should leave the international arena for the next generation of players. However, Bravo's professional cricketing career is not entirely over. The champion will only play domestic games. And retirement might leave him more time for his musical career. We've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at tellus4tv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Tell Us Your English, I'm Sony Gray. Thank you for watching.